Good Thursday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock. Time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready for the season opener Sunday. 1 o'clock down in Carolina. Amari Cooper, Browns' top wide receiver, met with the media today. Talked about what we should expect from this offense with Cooper as the number one wide receiver and Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback.
Hopefully it's going to be fireworks, you know what I mean? We definitely have the talent on this side of the ball to be everything that we want to be. So I don't know what you should expect, but I would just say wait and see, you know? Why not? It's right around the corner.
With guys like Chubb and Hunt, though, can you have fireworks?
What you mean?
Well, it seems like everyone expects you're going to be a run-oriented.
That's fireworks, too.
It seems like, I asked a lot of guys this yesterday too, it seems like a lot of people, nationally, locally, have dialed back expectations with Deshaun out for the first 11 games. Why might that be a mistake to do that?
I don't know what people have done here. I haven't seen that. Obviously Deshaun's a phenomenal talent, great quarterback. But we believe in the guys who are going to be playing on Sunday. And listen, we know what we have, and we're just ready. We're preparing. We're ready to go out there and win a football game.
With that, let's welcome in Quincy Carrier. Quincy, again, haven't seen Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Joel Bitonio on the field with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, and obviously I think with those guys, the offense looks a lot different, right? Because these are very, very talented, top of their level players at their positions. So, yeah, I feel like a lot of the discourse about Jacoby Brissett has been kind of unfair. Again, I'm not advocating that he's like a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. But I think the people have been much too quick to just go and dump all of the bad thoughts they have about Jacoby Brissett on him. I think there's going to be some room for correction here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and, it'll be very interesting to see how they play out on offense, being the Browns. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one just about what this viewer sees from the Browns' 2022 team.
Yeah, hi, guys. This is Ron from down here in Clayton, Ohio. I just want to tell you, absolutely the best Browns telecast that there is. Watch you every day. Okay, what I got to say is we went into this season knowing that we had two problem areas, the center of the defensive line and the wide receiver position. Barry addressed hardly anything. We got some rookie wide receivers. We did add Amari Cooper, good player. And the other thing I want to say is Jacoby Brissett. Now, he averages 5 yards per completion. And if I know that, obviously, the real football people know that. And it kind of makes me afraid of them loading the box because they're not looking for the field to be stretched, and our running game is going to go down the tube. 9 people in the box, 2 back, I kind of see what's going to go on. So the last thing I wanted to say is this game means a heck of a lot to Cleveland Browns fans. There's such a division at the end of the season. The only thing I think will bring us all together is a Browns win in the first game against Baker. If Baker wins, the fan base is just going to say, told you so. I'm a Browns fan for life. Go Browns. Woof. Bye-bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. I'm concerned about the stacked boxes as well. The one thing that I will say is that'll give you some opportunities to take shots down the field, not only with Amari Cooper, but David Njoku.
Yeah, the boxes are going to be stacked against this team anyways. Like, that's just what it is, right? And again, it's not – there are going to be some moments where they stack the box, but that's going to be moments where every other team in the NFL stacks the box against NFL offenses, right? 3rd and 2, they're going to stack the box. 2nd and 2, they might stack the box, right? The fact is, teams would rather you now beat you through running the football, even a team like the Cleveland Browns, than allow you to have a good day throwing the ball, because a lot of teams care about efficiency. This is the move that the NFL has gone in going forward. So stacking the box is not going to have as much to do with the Browns personnel as it is going to have to do with situations, because teams would rather the Browns feel comfortable throwing the ball with Jacoby Brissett rather than negate them from throwing the ball by stacking the box, right? I don't think this is the answer for defenses, right? Like if they're getting gashed to the point of no return, then they will stack the box. But defenses are going to do everything they can to not stack the box because I think people think about this backwards sometimes. An NFL team, especially now, wants Brissett to make the mistakes, not Nick Chubb. And if you stack the box, you make it harder for Brissett to make mistakes versus the latter, which is, hey, if you go out there and you let them throw the ball and let Brissett feel comfortable and empty and feel like he has the matchups that he wants to make, there's a higher likelihood that he makes those mistakes. So I don't think I think stacking of the boxes, it is a traditional thing that we talk about, but I think as time has gone on, the league is moving out of that direction, and it's not the problem that people think it's going to be. Now, as far as addressing what he said about wide receivers, interior defensive lines, hey man, team's just going to have some holes. These are the holes that they said when they built this roster that they were fine with, and what else were they going to do to address it other than bring in Amari Cooper and draft some people, right? Like that's where the holes are going to be. They weren't going to bring in, and I know people think Will Fuller might have solved the problem. You have just as many holes at wide receiver with Will Fuller as you do without Will Fuller, right? You bring in Ndamukong Suh, your defensive line's still not that well. Your interior defensive line still not good. Still not good. And Ndamukong Suh was not good last year, right? There's a reason he's not on the NFL team at this point of the year. So there was nothing you could really do to address it that was going to make people happy about those positions or fix those positions in the long run. So what you have is what you have. You build a roster. You say, hey, I'm okay with deficiencies in these areas because I feel like we can make up for them X, Y, and Z. We have to see if these things can be made up for.
Yeah, and that's, again, that's on the coaches now. They know where they exist. Now you have to scheme around them. Okay, this was from NFL.com, ranking all 32 of the starting quarterbacks entering the 2022 season, and this one was a little surprising. So Jacoby Brissett is ranked 32nd, dead last. Daniel Jones is 26th. Geno Smith is 27th. Joe Flacco is 28th. Marcus Mariota, 29th. Mitchell Trubisky, 30th. Davis Mills, 31st. Jacoby Brissett, 32nd. The rationale behind it, I don't love Brissett's chances inside a Browns offense that is paper thin at wideout, but he brings the experience of 37 NFL starts. Cleveland ground game can do the heavy lifting if Jacoby can hit the brakes on his 12 career fumbles. That seems awfully low to me. I get he's not a top 15 or top 20, but I don't think he's the worst starter.
Yeah, man, they've been writing articles all year about, hey, they need to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo and all this stuff. So it's like when sometimes this happens, when people push for the Browns to do a certain thing, they don't do it. People tend to punish them by ranking them lowly in these areas because, they wanted them to do something else. I've been saying this for a while. Jacoby Brissett, he's not great, but he's better than a lot of people think. It's going to be up to him to prove it. He's in a good position to prove it this year. And I'm interested to see how we'll look at these rankings come week 11.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right. Well, we've heard about Baker Mayfield, and now we're going to take a look at this. This is the off-the-leash T-shirt that Baker Mayfield, who he said his marketing people came up with. The off-the-leash is a kind of a shot at Kevin Stefanski, not letting him do the things that he felt he was best at. Didn't want him to audible. So there's your off-the-leash Baker Mayfield T-shirt. All right, you get a chuckle. Now, before we get to you, let's listen to Shannon Sharpe talking about the Browns and Panthers prediction for Week 1 that Shannon Sharpe has.
Emotions will get the best of them. That's what they always do. That's what he did when Hugh Jackson, he thought Hugh Jackson slighted him by not starting him and anointing him the number 2 quarterback. And when Hugh got fired, that's why he did what he did on the sideline. He's an emotional player. Emotions are good. Controlled emotions are better. And I don't believe Baker will have the emotions in check. I believe they take advantage of that. Baker's a front runner. And I can see him being very, very animated. He throws a touchdown or when they score a touchdown, but it's going to be short-lived. I believe the Browns are the better team. They're the deeper team, They're going to take the ball out of Jacoby Brissett's hand. They will not ask Jacoby Brissett to win this ball game. Chubb, Kareem Hunt, the defense will win this ball game. And so, no, I do not believe that's why he's selling T-shirts. If he had his emotions in check, he wouldn't be selling T-shirts about him being off the leash. That tells me everything I need to know. That tells me where his head is. He still doesn't get it. He still doesn't get it.
And Quincy, I agree with Shannon Sharpe. Pretty much everything he said.
Yeah, I mean, remember when he was in Cleveland and he would do stuff like this and we go, oh my God, why? Right? Like, and then people would come out, oh no, he's just being himself. And it's just the same debate, right? It's the same debate because it's the same stuff he's been doing since 2018, right? And he can say, oh, well, it was my marketing department that did this. You finalized it, right? Like, you're Baker Mayfield of Baker Mayfield Enterprises. I'm sorry. If the shirt goes out and people have something to say about it, you can't throw your marketing people under the bus like you didn't say, yeah, that's good. They didn't send you a picture of the shirts. Actually, that was cool. You could have said, nah, let's just go with the Carolina blue one. Let's stay out the headlines. No, you wanted to make the off-the-leash shirts because you know exactly what your brand appeals to, which is, vengeful, bitterness, whatever it is, right? So, it's just Baker being Baker, and this is exactly why there was a lot of people in this city that are just done with it, right? Like, this is the exact stuff that made us go, oh, my God. Why? It's Kevin Stefanski. His whole motto is what? All bite, no bark. Baker Mayfield is the exact opposite of it. We wonder why these things did not coexist, right? Like, this is very obvious why it didn't coexist. He's going to do his thing. If they score a touchdown, he's going to be all Baker Mayfield about it. And if he has a bad game, who knows if he shows up to shake hands or comes to the press conference about it, right? We know that he is immature. We know that he doesn't handle these things well. We know that he is emotional to the point to where it affects his responsibilities of being a quote-unquote franchise quarterback, which is why people had hesitancy trading for him, given that he's still a very talented player. This is who he is. Better or worse. And everybody has said, hey, man, if he changes these things for the last 4 years, we said this in Cleveland, if he could just mature a little bit, if he changes these things, he can be a good quarterback. But he does stuff like this that makes you go, oh, yeah, man, he's the same guy. Not saying he's a bad person. I think people hear me say this and go, oh, well, you think he's a bad person because of the T-shirt. No, he's Baker Mayfield, but we just want him to stop doing the Baker Mayfield stuff at some point, because it gets exhausting. And this is just a reminder of like, oh, yeah, he's still the same guy. You know what I mean? Shannon's probably right on that read.
Yeah, and a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback in the NFL should be above all that. They just should be operating above all that, and he doesn't.
Especially in his situation. Like, I think what I worry about with him is like, I don't think he understands the severity of his situation. I don't think he understands that he's not in a situation where the Carolina Panthers are committing to him as a franchise quarterback. He is in a situation where he is battling for his NFL future as a starter. And when you're doing all of that and you're still like, hey, let's push the revenge button instead of, hey, let's stay out the headlines as much as possible. So if I hit free agency, people don't feel like they have to worry about this kind of stuff with me. That's what tells me, like, that's what's immature about it. Not the fact that he's saying something against the Browns. I could care less. I get it. He wants to beat the Browns. He played for the Browns. He feels upset. He feels like he was done dirty. Cool. Like, there are other guys who do that without expressing themselves in T-shirts. This is about like, man, if you're a GM, you see this off-the-leash Baker Mayfield shirt and you had hesitancy about trading for him for like a 4th-round pick, and then he becomes available next offseason, you're going to look back at that shirt and be like, I don't know, I feel like that's the same guy. I don't feel like he learned anything from this whole situation. And it's just a lack of awareness of his situation that he probably will continue to demonstrate,
Yeah, absolutely. Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out of the side of the break. We head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Take a look at some predictions for the Browns-Panthers. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE. We want you to voicemail our predictions for the game against the Panthers. Give us a call. Tell you what you think's going to happen in that game. Who you think's going to win, Browns, Panthers, and what a key stat will be. We're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason right now, talking about the Browns and the national perception of them.
Hello, this is Joe from Las Vegas, originally from Cleveland. I just had a question that's just been boggling my mind lately. Have you guys ever seen the media and the public pretty much downgrade a team just by a specific signing of a player? I mean, I understand that, everything that comes with Watson, and, I get that, but this is still a very solid roster, and I just can't understand just because of a certain signing and what's going on. We're projected to win 6 games this year. Everyone's saying that Baker is going to blow us out with the Panthers, scoring all these points on such a great defense like we have. I'm just wondering if you guys ever seen anything like this before, because I haven't, and I'm watching football for many years. Yeah, I just want to get your thoughts on that. Thank you very much. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, I don't necessarily know if it's the Watson signing. I think it's the fact that you're going to be playing with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback for 11 games is one of the reasons. And they have a young wide receiving core. So you kind of do that. But again, I think they're discounting defense, running game, offensive line of this team.
Yeah, and it's hard to make the media monolith here because that's what we tend to do, is say, all the national media. There are some people in the media who kind of their whole thing is, hey, they do narratives. So they're writing different narratives. Right now, they're painting narratives. Browns aren't in the protagonist side of that narrative. So, they're going to be downgraded a little bit. Some people are looking at this logically. Look, this Browns team is not a guarantee to do anything this year. So the fact that the predictions are all over the place, probably about right for this team. Can you see them making the playoffs and making a run late in the year? Absolutely. Can you see this team, imploding early because of things at the quarterback position? Sure. That's not out the realm of possibility. So, I would be less focused on the national perspective of this team, given that there are plenty of great local shows like the one I'm here on right now, cheap plug. But, also there's a lot to focus on this team in general before we could talk about what other people think about this team. You know what I mean? So it's just, there's a lot going on in Cleveland right now. So I understand the frustration, but ultimately, until the Browns show that they're good after many disappointing seasons, nobody's going to believe it. So it's up to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it's kind of a show me statement, so we'll see. I know you have addressed this on your show, Quincy. Again, Quincy Carrier, search it on YouTube. How important is it can the Browns minimize penalties, and how important is it, especially offensively? You don't want to be second and third and long with this offense. That's a recipe to have a long day offensively.
Oh, it's everything to this offense. To make sure that they don't hurt themselves with procedural penalties, right? False starts, holding. Well, holding's not procedural, but illegal procedure, illegal motion, all that stuff. They need to make sure that they're crisp on that stuff, because this team's ability to move the sticks is going to be in 5 to 10 yard chunks. And the math tells you, hey, you get to 3rd and 13, not optimal, right? You're putting Jacoby Brissett in not optimal situations. You want Jacoby Brissett to attack short, and you want him to be able to attack deep. You want to keep him from that middle part of the field, right? So, yeah, it's everything. The more you get penalties, the more you get behind the sticks, the more you force your quarterback in that difficulty area, and you don't have your franchise quarterback until week 13. So until that is, you can't afford that. And even then, you don't really want to get in those situations because it just kills your efficiency.
All right, so this is from CBSSports.com, 2022 NFL season predictions. AFC North. All of them have Bengals and Ravens first and second. 4 of them have the Steelers finishing ahead of the Browns in third, and the other 2 have the Browns in third. It kind of goes to show you. And again, I get the Bengals and the Ravens are probably decent, but it's just interesting that even some of them view the Steelers as ahead of where the Browns are, and they're sorting out a quarterback issue there.
Yeah. That's weird, right? They're a much less talented team, and they're in the same kind of bad quarterback position the Browns are in, but except for Brown's situation has an end point. Theirs doesn't. But yeah, it's brands, right? I think it's brands. People look at Mike Tomlin and go, there's no way he's going to be under 500, and they think it's more likely based off of reputation of the Steelers and who's there. That they don't go under 500 and that somebody else goes under 500, and they're going to probably pick the Browns to go under 500 because, to be fair, they did go under 500 last year. So, again, this is about perception. When you don't have the most positive energy going into your team, and then you are a team that does not have the most positive perception regardless before anything happened going into a season, people are gonna tend to underrate you or, for lack of a better word, sleep on you.
All right, before we go to break, Skip Bayless, prediction for week 1 with the Panthers and the Browns, with Baker Mayfield facing the Browns.
Baker is at his best when he's in walk-on mode, and he has now walked on virtually by taking a big pay cut to go to Carolina and join a team that was ranked 32nd and last in the ESPN offseason power ranking. And he loved that because he knew the cupboard wasn't bare, but he knew that most people had little to no respect for that team. So he walked on, and he was the hopeless underdog again, and I love that Baker Mayfield. I believe he got humbled by that process because I do believe that he thought a lot of people would line up for him. Yeah. But they might have if he had just waited Cleveland out until Cleveland had no choice but to just flat out cut him the way they cut Odell and just send him on his way and let him go wherever he wanted to go. But he didn't wait. He liked it that Carolina did show interest in him, some trade interest, even though they gave up next to nothing to get him. And yet the humbling helped him grow up some. Everything that he has said in Carolina, I don't like, I love.
Quincy, he picked the Panthers to win, so I'm not buying I'm not buying the new Baker though.
It's Skip Bayless's whole gimmick, right? He's been talking about the new Baker for like 4 years. Every offseason, this is the new Baker. He's the new Baker. He's changing, right? Then he does the same stuff. He's not the new Baker. He's Baker Mayfield. We forget. He's 27 years old. Like, I'm 27 years old. I'm pretty sure that I have flaws that just ain't gonna get fixed, right? Like, this just is what it is with your personality at a certain point in life. He's not 22. He's a grown man at this point, like a grown adult. We can't keep talking about every year he's gonna change and then expect him to change. That's part of what the frustration was in Cleveland. Every year, bro, he's gonna change. He's gonna be better. He's gonna be different. Nothing changes. So, again, listen to when you hear people predict this game in favor of the Carolina Panthers because of some Baker Mayfield reason, why they're doing it. You don't hear any evaluation of anything about a football field insight. It is about his emotions. It is about, Baker's going to be angry. It ain't about football. You don't hear anybody, hey, man, Myles Garrett's going up against a rookie left tackle. What do you think the Panthers going to do to adjust for that? No, Baker Mayfield's going to be angry, and it's going to fix every hole that the Carolina Panthers have on offense because Baker's mad. That is basically the analysis for a lot of the Baker Mayfield things. And I I've been on the other side of that, where I've been buying into the Baker Mayfield anger thing, and then a game like the San Francisco 49ers one on Monday night in 2019 happens. I'm like, what happened? How did we get beat down this bad? Oh, I ignored all of the football elements of this game because I was just so wrapped up in Baker Mayfield's emotions, right? That's what I see happening here. And I'm not saying this is going to be a complete destruction or blowout or anything like this, but boy, are we forgetting to evaluate the football when it comes to this matchup, because there are real problems for the Carolina Panthers matchup-wise that the Cleveland Browns present that nobody previewing this game is talking about outside of a handful of people.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We want to hear your predictions for Week 1 against the Panthers. Call, leave them on our voicemail. We will play them for you tomorrow. Sports4CLE, be right back after this timeout.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns offense.
Hi, this is pertaining to the Browns and the head coach Stefanski. I was wondering how you feel about his play calling. It seems to me, basing it on the last 2 seasons, mostly last season, that they had all these workhorses at running back and really didn't feature that in the offense. I mean, they struggled on many levels, but running the ball, I would think, would wear down defenses. And, you don't want to be predictable, but when you have 3 talented individuals like we do, I would think we would be more run-centric than pass-centric. Just curious as your thoughts on that, and enjoy your show. Thank you.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, let you take this one first. What do you think just about that?
The Browns have been in Kevin Stefanski's term here, right? They were ranked 6th in rushing attempts in 2020. They were ranked like 10th last year. Obviously, they were ranked 10th last year because they fell behind in a lot of these games and they had to throw the ball more. They run the ball plenty. I don't get this narrative out there that Kevin Stefanski does not want to use the workhorses in his running back room. He has used them plenty. At the top of the league, has ran the ball more than teams like the Cardinals, right? Like they have rushing quarterbacks. They ran the ball more than the Ravens too, by the way. Like, this doesn't make much sense when you actually look at what they're providing on the field, which is the Browns are one of the most run-heavy teams in football for the last couple of years when Kevin Stefanski's here. He likes to run the ball. What were we complaining about all last year, Dave? 13 personnel. When you run 13 personnel out there, what are you doing most of the time? You're running the football. The fact that this team runs the football is not a part of the problem, right? If Kevin Stefanski's play calling, I think much has been made about it. It was fine when he won Coach of the Year in 2020. It wasn't great when Baker Mayfield had the 27th worst QBR in football. Let me tell you something. There's not a lot of teams that can have the 27th worst quarterback via QBR that have great play calling, because play calling comes down to execution on the field. And if the quarterback can't see who's open for whatever reason and throw the ball and get it there to the person who's open, of course the play calling is going to look terrible because the offense is going to look terrible. So we're going to say it's the play calling if we don't want to blame the quarterback. But ultimately, these are the things that factor into it. They run the ball plenty. I don't get this complaint about Kevin Stefanski that they don't run the ball. They run the ball so much. They're only behind Derrick Henry. They run it so much that it doesn't make sense to complain about them not running the ball. But I don't know what they can do to satisfy some people. I think people want the Browns to just run the ball on all 4 downs every play, and then maybe that'll make some people happy. But the fact is they run the ball a lot. And the play calling with Kevin Stefanski, a lot of people are criticizing it based off of the result. And I think we need to factor in more things than just the play call to the result. You know what I mean? The play call ain't going to fix everything.
So here's an interesting one. This is from Pro Football Focus. Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller. Their Pro Football Focus ranking, their grade in 2021. Bitonio, 93.8. Teller, 88.7. Second and third highest graded guards in the entire NFL. That'll help you run the football a little bit, too. And those are the kind of things that are kind of being overlooked when you're talking about the Panthers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the Panthers, they're not a good run defense, right? Like, they were a bad run defense last year. Brian Burns is a good pass rusher. He's not great at setting an outside edge. That's exactly what you don't want to be bad at versus the Cleveland Browns, which is outside zone, because Nick Chubb, if he gets 2 or 3 steps downhill, he's almost unstoppable to tackle. And if you're allowing him to get 2 or 3 steps downhill against your football team, you're going to have a long day. And it don't matter how many people you put in the box. If you can't stop that initial run, you're going to be in trouble. You can put 10 people in the box, 11 people in the box. You can get 12 men on the field every play, put them all in the box. You can't stop outside zone. You can't stop outside zone. The numbers ain't going to matter at that point. So that is what they're up against. They have to find a way to stop Nick Chubb. If they can stop Nick Chubb and stop the outside zone, then they have a chance to slow this game down for themselves. But if they're not able to do that, I don't see how the Panthers win this game. And this is something that they've not been good at. So again, we've talked about everything but the football in this game, and the football reasons kind of point in one direction that I find astonishing that we have not looked at as much as we have. But I'll see if I'm wrong on that Sunday.
All right, so let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one with what this viewer sees for the Browns this year.
Hey, love the show. Just have a quick question. 11 games without Deshaun. If the Browns are rolling, say 8-3, 7-4 after them 11 games, do you think they still just tell Jacoby, okay, now we give it back to Deshaun, or do they still keep rolling with Jacoby? It'd be an interesting thing to see what happens. Just want to hear what you guys think. Go Browns. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Those would be problems the Browns would love to have, but there's 230 million guaranteed reasons that Deshaun Watson will get the football when he is able to play.
Yeah, there's no shot that Jacoby, this is even a debate. There's just no shot. This is Deshaun's playing when he's able to come back. That just is what it is. It doesn't matter if Jacoby Brissett's in the MVP race. It doesn't matter if this team is undefeated. Deshaun is going to play because they guaranteed him $230 million to play. Like, that just is what it is. They can't get out of that contract. It's not even like if they wanted to keep Jacoby over Deshaun, and this is a crazy conversation to even hypothetically have. It's not like they could keep Jacoby over Deshaun. The money's already spent. The money has been withdrawn from Jimmy's account. That means Deshaun is going to play. Okay, I don't know why we keep dragging up these scenarios. Oh, could Jacoby keep the job? No, Jacoby ain't keeping this job past the 11-game suspension. And you know who knows that more than anybody? Jacoby Brissett probably knows that more than anybody, right? Like, hey, man, It's going to be 11 games of Jacoby Brissett unless the suspension somehow gets extended, right? This is what it's going to be. Jacoby is going to be in there for 11 games. And if he plays great, he's going to get a great opportunity somewhere else. Yeah. But it ain't going to be here. You know what I mean? And I hope he does play great and get a great opportunity. But we don't have to juxtapose these two. It's not happening.
No, I'm with you. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Again, want to remind you, call the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Give us your prediction. Who's going to win Browns Panthers Week 1? What will some of the keys be? Sports4CLE will be right back. Quincy, Carrier, and I will take a look at the Panthers. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports for CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about a key in this viewer's mind to the Browns season.
Yeah, hi, my name's Ken from Dorset. Hey, I was just calling to leave a message here. I do believe the Browns can have a winning season. The defense is really probably the top priority they do have. And I think it really comes down to whether officiating is fair or not this year for the Cleveland Browns. Okay, love your show. Thanks, bye.
Appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, I don't see that the officiating is going to – I don't think the officiating is going to be out to get the Browns even a little bit. It just kind of is what it is. You got to clean that up.
Dave, have you ever heard a football fan at the end of the year go, you know what? I felt like the officiating was rather fair this year. have you ever, you know, at the end of a game, just be like, you know what? I felt like we got all the calls that we needed to get. You know, good job, refs. Like, I've never, ever heard anybody ever say that. You know, no matter what happens this year, we're going to find 3 or 4 bad calls this season, and we're going to say the refs that had it against us. That's just what fans do. I've never heard fans not take that route. You know, and even when you do, like, I've been on that, I've caught that stray where I'm like, hey, man, I don't think the officiating was that, oh, you must not watch the game. Like, it's just,
I know.
All right, bro.
Yeah.
You're just mad at the refs. It's the refs' fault. That's why they lost the game, not the interception at the end of the game. But it's just, yeah, the officiating, it's always going to be a talking point. And no matter, all 32 teams thinks the league's against them at some point in the year, which, you know, makes no sense for a conspiracy. But, yeah, it is what it is. The Patriots fan, everybody thinks the Patriots and the Steelers get so much of the whistle. You ever talk to a Patriot fan or a Steeler fan? They swear the league is against them, right? Like, it's, everybody thinks this, right? Everybody. Cowboy fans, oh, the league's trying to stop. Like, everybody thinks that the refs are not being fair to them.
All right, so some news from Panthers camp. Christian McCaffrey now listed on the injury report, but it's not serious. McCaffrey got his shin caught with a cleat, finished practice, and is fine. But again, you know, everybody is holding their breath because McCaffrey has been beat up, banged up. Quincy, and I know you've addressed this on your show, what do we need to think about when we're thinking about this matchup as far as on the football field goes with the Carolina Panthers?
You know, it's one of the interesting things that nobody's talked about that's pretty pertinent to this game. Christian McCaffrey is probably going to be on the snap count, right? Like that, he's coming back limited from an injury. He has not practiced all offseason. All signs point to him, and I think they've even announced he's going to be on the snap count. It's not been discussed. Kind of weird. It's their best player, right? DJ Moore, he's really good, right? He's their wide receiver out of Carolina. Now, he's not going to be one of the best wide receivers the Browns play. We play Jamar Chase. We play Deontay Johnson. I think those are better wide receivers, but he's really good. I think a lot of this is going to come down to the Panthers are going to try to get rid of the ball early to avoid the Browns pass rush in this game. They're going to throw a lot of screens. I think that's a terrible game plan versus the Cleveland Browns because the Browns are very, very quick vertically. It really only works if you're able to run the ball successfully early, force the Browns into their base 4-3 sets where they're not as athletic. And then you can throw those screens when the Browns are in some, like, you know, one or maybe one under where they don't have enough space. And then you can also take some shots. So if the Browns can stop the run early, not have to be forced to be in their base sets to stop the run, and then get into their nickel and dime sets, go into some underneath coverage. And here's the key to me. They can't be super focused on revenge, right? The defense. They can't be trying to get sacks. They can't be zero blitzing. They can't be being super aggressive. They need to play 4 rush, 4-man down football, 4 underneath football, where they're just playing zone and letting Baker get frustrated, because eventually if you hem Baker into just the underneath stuff and taking the check downs, he's going to get frustrated. We know this about him in Cleveland. He's going to get frustrated. He's either going to hold the ball long and allow you to get sacks, or he's going to try to force the ball into a window he shouldn't, and then you'll get turnovers. They need to, what I like to call it, smoke him out, right? Just get him by just giving him little gasps of air that he's going to get frustrated with, and smoke him out that way. You don't smoke him out by blitzing him to death, because then you give him what he wants. He gets to take shots if he wants to do that. He's going to be satisfied. You got to smoke him out. You know he's a player who can get easily frustrated when he's not able to stretch the field. So you take that away from him and then see what he gives you after that.
All right, let's real quickly on the defensive side of the ball. What can the Browns exploit with Brissett in the running game?
Yeah, so for Brissett in the running game, again, I talked about that outside zone being an issue for the Carolina Panthers. That's going to be something that they're going to want to take advantage of. Also, when teams have problems with outside zone, they usually have problems with play action because, again, having an issue with outside zone indicates that you're being too aggressive to get to the quarterback, right? We've been through this with early Myles Garrett. Remember, Barkevious Mingo was the king of just being terrible at outside zone, where he could just always take the bait. You can be really good at end arounds, really good at misdirection when you have players who aren't good at that. So if that's probably going to be something we're going to see a lot of. I expect Jacoby Brissett to take more deep shots than what people are expecting. I think he's going to attack. It's going to be like basketball, right, where there's no mid-range shots anymore, where it's either like a dunk or a three. That's what the Browns offense is going to be relying on, right? Either we're going to be dunking the ball, getting the easy two, getting the layup, getting close to the basket, throwing a 5-yard hitch or something like that, throwing some stick, or they're going to take the big shots, right? But that's going to be what the Browns' strategy is offensively. They're going to try to stay out that mid-range area because they don't have the skill in that area to be successful. Where they do have the skill is deep down the field, second level of the defense, or third level of the defense, and they have first level success that they can have there. But they can't be in that second level of the defense too much.
Quincy Carrier, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Great stuff as always. Appreciate it, Quincy. Thanks.
No problem, man.
Quincy Carrier, go ahead, search his show. Good stuff as well. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Want to remind you, leave us a voicemail of Truth and Reason. Predict the final score of the Browns and Panthers game, as well as some key stats. We'll play those for you tomorrow. Casey Kinnamon on the other side of the break. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Good morning. This is Mr. Wallace calling from Atlanta, Georgia. I think what most people are underestimating is public opinion and how people really feel. They're looking for Carolina to win because Cleveland is Darth Vader and Carolina is the light. Carolina is what they want to happen. And if Christian McCaffrey and Baker Mayfield are going to get the benefit of the doubt, and the Browns are going to get a lot of penalties because that's the way they want it to be. I hate to say that as a Browns fan, but I think that's what the season is going to boil down to, officiating. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Casey, I don't know that there will be excessive penalties called against the Browns unless they commit excessive penalties.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with his analogy that like right now, national, the viewpoint is that we're the bad guys and they're the good guys. But I don't think that bleeds over into like how many penalties will be called unless in case, the Browns actually commit those penalties, in which case you'll see the laundry fly. But like it is national perception. And it's kind of curious because you're seeing a lot of people who are not big fans of Baker Mayfield seem to be pulling more for him now that he's in Carolina. And I'm not pointing some grand conspiracy that it's Cleveland against the world, but it is kind of curious that that's going down like that. But for far too long, as a fan, I always felt like people felt bad for us or they were indifferent towards us. at this point, I'm ready to be the villain. So bring it on. If you want to paint us in that light, go ahead and do it. But if they can go down to Charlotte and come back with a dub, that's all that's going to matter.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how little people are looking at the rest of the Browns roster. I mean, this roster is probably a little bit better than it was last year when everybody thought it was a top 5 roster in the NFL. The main change is at the quarterback position. Sure, Beckham's gone, but Beckham wasn't a factor. Landry wasn't really a factor. It's just curious. And the defense figures to take a huge step forward because some of those young guys were pretty good last year.
Yeah, the disrespect being shown to this roster is staggering. To Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, Nick Chubb, Joel Bitonio. I mean, these are top flight guys at their positions in the NFL, and they're just acting like just because Baker is no longer here, that all of a sudden the Browns don't have a chance. It's silly talk. Especially that they competed last year with Baker playing at a bottom 5 level of quarterback play, and they were still in it until the second week to go. So the people paint the narratives they want to paint. It'll take care of itself between the lines.
Yeah, I would agree. This is kind of interesting. So Field Yates tweets this out. Team cap space remaining as the season begins. And you see the Browns have a whole bunch of that, almost $38 million, more than twice as much as the next closest team, the Raiders. Now, it's important to note, Casey, they want to save a bunch of that because they have a couple of big contracts that will hit next year. The salary cap's going up, but they're going to need to roll over a good chunk of that to take care of, Denzel Ward and Deshaun Watson and those kind of contracts.
Yeah, that's super misleading. People see that 37 and, they want to know, why aren't the Browns doing more right now? That 37 is not really 37. That 37 is more like $2 million, and 35 needs to go to next season just to pay the bill when it comes due for all these large contracts. And if you look at the 4 teams below them, I know the Broncos have to deal with the Russell Wilson contract coming up and Devontae in Oakland, but none of those teams have the number of exorbitant contracts coming up that the Browns do. So the Browns are going to have to pinch some pennies. And they're just like most teams that have large contracts, like several on the same team, they're going to have to attack their needs through the draft so they can stay relevant without having to lose a lot of good players, which they may have to do anyway over time. But if you look at where the Browns were going into the 2017 draft to where they are now, from nothing in the cupboard to an embarrassment of riches, these are great problems to have. But just get that 37 number out of your head. That's closer to 2 to 5 million.
Yeah, and that's what the problems that good rosters face is the salary cap is designed so eventually you can't keep everybody that you can't pay everybody that's a good player. This is also kind of interesting. Spot Track. Most combined money spent per position. So total roster is the Chargers, and this is average value per season. Average annual value is what AAV stands for. So total roster is the Chargers. Total offense is the Browns. Total defense is the Chargers. Running backs and offensive line right now is where the Browns have that money. And it's not probably an accident that they're going to likely lean on that running game in the 11 weeks that Jacoby Brissett is the starting quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell their team building philosophy by where they're spending their money. And that offensive line, that's really not going to change year over year. They have 2 top flight guards. They have a right tackle who'll probably come off the books next year, but then they have to decide if they're going to pay their left tackle. So that number is going to stay up. You're going to see them kind of have a higher offensive line total than most teams because of how they build their team. But that running back number is going to change. This time next year, if Jerome Ford develops like I think that he will, Dearness and Kareem are probably both gone. And then that number looks a lot more reasonable when you're only really paying a lot of money to Chubb. So that will evolve. But then the Deshaun contract comes in, so they're going to have one of the highest paid quarterbacks. So they're going to have to move things to kind of fit the way they're going to fit. But to add to your point, they are 100% going to lean on that running game, as well they should. They have elite players across the board, and they can really do things that other teams can't just based on their personnel.
Yeah, and along those lines, the guy that we were talking about that they've elected to pay long-term, Nick Chubb, since 2019, from Pro Football Focus, 181 missed tackles forced first in the NFL. 114 runs of 10-plus yards. Let that sink in. So since 2019, he has had 114 runs of 10 yards or greater, and then 2,860 yards after contact, second in the NFL. And I know Jonathan Taylor is a really talented back. Those numbers are crazy.
Yeah, it's stupefying how good Nick Chubb is. I know when they did that NFL Top 100, he came in 33. My first thought was, so you're telling me there's 32 football players on the planet better than Nick Chubb? I don't buy it. He is so good. And a lot of it has to do with how they manage him. You know, I know since Stefanski's been in Cleveland, in 2020 he saw like 15.8 carries a game, and then in 21 it was 16.2. So even with a slight uptick, say he gets 18 carries a game, and he stays healthy for 17 games, that's 300 carries. That's going to put him at 1,500 yards. And that's like league leading stuff. And that's with him not getting these crazy carries that everyone wants to see him get. Everyone wants to see him 25 carries a game. I think if you do that, you shorten his lifespan, you know, in the NFL. And he's so special. So I think they just need to keep on the trajectory they're on, because it's obviously working. He is super effective. And what's the craziest thing to me about Nick Chubb is he's the most effective in the fourth quarter when the other team knows he's going to run the ball. Like, he's that special of a running back, like a generational talent.
So the other thing is, you know, Kareem Hunt, who missed a substantial chunk of games, is really effective in the red zone. They complement each other, and they know they complement each other.
Yeah, they know what they have in those guys, and that's why you didn't see movement on Kareem this offseason. I know you put the trade request in, but I think the Browns know to get through the season, and if they want to be where they want to be when they get Watson back, they're going to lean heavily on those two and let them play to their fullest. And God willing, get them on the field at the same time. I need to see it. Everyone else wants to see it. It needs to happen.
All right. So Baker Mayfield yesterday, talking to the media, was asked who is he looking to see most pregame when the Panthers face the Browns on Sunday.
You know, a big hug from Nicholas Chubb would be a really, really good gift. You know, just to hear him say a word would also be nice. You know, the mime that he is. Yeah.
And you can tell Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb do have a pretty good relationship. That's the reason that you hear each of them speak about the other as well.
Yeah, it just speaks to what kind of a stand-up guy Nick Chubb is. And, I mean, he got voted team captain, and it's not because he gives rah-rah speeches. He's an excellent teammate. Everyone looks up to him. Everyone admires him. And if I'm Baker, get a hug from Chubb, because everyone else is going to put their arms around you that day is going to do so with ill intentions. So if you can get a hug from Chubb, but you're probably not getting the word, so don't get greedy.
Yeah, I would doubt it. You know, the guy who is a lot like Nick Chubb, wide receiver Amari Cooper. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we will hear from Amari Cooper talking about the offense in the wide receiver position. Sports for CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Amari Cooper, Browns #1 wide receiver, Hadn't gotten into the preseason games, hasn't played in-game action with Jacoby Brissett just yet. Cooper talked about rookie wide receiver David Bell and leading that young wide receiving room.
We were all rookies at some point, you know what I mean? Come out here, you play the game. But as far as David, he's a really smart dude, real studious. He understands what he has to do to be successful. We talk a lot, and I think he's going to be ready. But to answer your question, yeah, he's just he pays attention to detail. He's real studious guy.
Amari, as the leader of the receiver room now, how are you kind of helping Anthony Schwartz work through his issues? And he's looked good in the practice that we've seen this week, but how are you helping kind of bring him along and getting him through what he's going through?
Yeah, I mean, we're teammates. We all go through the valleys and peaks of this game. I mean, everybody. There's not anybody in this locker room who, has had a perfect practice. So we're all working on something. So, we talk to each other. Everybody. We all bring each other up, and tell each other what we could have done, or what we need to work on and stuff like that. But he's good. I mean, he knows what he has to do. He's a pro. So, I mean, I think he'll be fine. But, yeah, we do talk.
And, Casey, it's kind of interesting. Cooper is a guy that everybody's trying to help Schwartz get out of the little bit of funk that he's been in during the preseason.
Yeah, that's what leaders do. You hear him talk. He's building up the guys. He's not taking down. He's going through the peaks and the valleys with Schwartz. He's seen this in other receivers. He's went through brief periods of it himself. So he knows what it's going to take. It's going to take a steady hand and staying positive and staying in it, and fight through this and hope that he comes out the other side a better player for it. So that's what you want to hear out of the people leading your rooms. And you hear him talk about Bell. What I hear is he's going to be ready to go. When you say he pays attention to detail, he'll be ready to fit in quicker. He'll understand the little nuances of the offense. And it's good to hear that kind of stuff coming from a veteran like Cooper.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. That's as good as you could hope to hear about a rookie wide receiver. All right, I know you wrote this article, Dog Pound Daily, 5 pivotal matchups for the Browns in that season opener. Number 5, Jedrick Wills, the left tackle, against Brian Burns. Burns 25.5 sacks in his time there. So he is kind of the guy that on the other side that can get after the quarterback. How important is this matchup?
Oh, it's massive. That's massive. And it's massive for Wills and his confidence. He's not really coming off a really good preseason showing. From everything we were hearing, it's been up and down. And to come right out of the gate and face, I know he's not one of the household names in the league, but Brian Burns gets after it. He's a guy like 55 quarterback hits since he's been in the league. He puts pressure on quarterbacks, and to do so from the blind side, that's detrimental when, the last thing the Browns can have right now is a quarterback injury to start the season. So a lot's going to be on Jedrick's plate. So, yeah, it's a very pivotal matchup. He needs to come out clean, and it's a tough proposition.
This one's kind of interesting as well. The fourth one, you got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah going against Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey, when he has been on the field, is really good. Hadn't been on the field a lot. The Browns are built to handle a back like Christian McCaffrey, somebody that's fast and tough in space.
Yeah, and unfortunately for the Browns, he hasn't been healthy, but they're getting a full dose of him. He's as healthy as he's going to be this first game, so I expect them to lean heavily on Christian McCaffrey. But they do kind of have an antidote in JOK, because what the Browns are kind of telling you for their personnel, run it if you want to, go ahead, because they believe they can win that type of a game if it comes down to running game versus running game. But where McCaffrey can really hurt you is the passing game, because he's an extra receiver out there. And out of the backfield, that's hard to deal with unless you have a linebacker with the coverage skills of JOK. He has that speed. He could basically be a nickel corner out there with his ball skills. So I think it's a very pivotal matchup. And if they skew it right, I think we're going to see JOK on CMC for most of the day.
Yeah, and another one that you have, the third one, Denzel Ward against DJ Moore. Moore, a really talented young wide receiver. This one's going to go a long way. If Ward in that secondary can shut down the passing game, it's going to be tough for the Panthers.
Yeah, and we kind of have a previous knowledge of how Baker plays. There's going to be some shots taken. I mean, they're just going to be. And if you had to look at a receiver on Carolina's team that's candidate number one, it's going to be DJ Moore. And they kind of move him around a lot, but he's going to come up against Ward several times. And I know that the DBs are going to be up for this matchup. They know what's at stake. They kind of know how Baker plays, and there's going to be some big opportunities for turnovers. So Ward's got to lock down Moore. Moore's he's sudden. They're about the same size. They're in that same range. It's going to be a good matchup to watch. And I just like watching strength versus strength. And they're definitely the best on each side of the ball. And it's going to be cool to see them go toe-to-toe.
The second matchup to watch, these 5 pivotal matchups, you have David Njoku against Jeremy Chin, the safety. This one could be huge for the offense.
Yeah, as long as Brissett is at the helm, the passing offense is going to go through the tight ends, and that means a lot of David Njoku. He's a guy that can take a short pass and take it long. He's super athletic, and they're going to try to get him involved early. But as I said in the article, I could have titled this Jeremy Chin versus the Browns offense. I know no one's really talking about this kid nationwide, but if you put on the tape, he is phenomenal. He is everywhere. If you find the ball, you're going to find Jeremy Chin. He's going to be nasty in the run game. He blows up screens. He can play the deep third. And he's 6'3", 220. He's got a good body style to match up with Njoku. So I think for a couple of these plays are going to come down to who makes the play. So it's going to be indicative that Njoku goes and really asserts himself physically and takes a couple of these, because it's going to be a long day for both those guys. And,
the top one is Myles Garrett against the rookie first-round tackle. And again, Myles Garrett has to create some havoc, and Ikwoku will end up being a pretty good player, but it is his first NFL start. Good luck with that, young man.
Congratulations. You're the first offensive tackle taken in the draft, the first offensive player taken in the draft. Your door prize, Myles Garrett, week 1. That is a frightening proposition for that young man. And the Carolina Panthers are going to do everything they can to help him out, sliding protections, moving the pocket, but there's only so much you can do. Myles Garrett is a force of nature. And if you look at how other teams kind of handle it, they'll bring a tight end to chip or use the running back. But the Panthers are not going to send Christian McCaffrey to chip Myles Garrett. If they want to keep that young man healthy, they're going to keep him away from 95 as much as possible. So it's going to come down to Ike Ekwonu and Myles Garrett one-on-one several times. And I like Myles Garrett's odds in that matchup, and I don't like Mayfield's odds if Ekwonu gets beat.
Yeah, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. Before I let you go, just a feeling, what do you think happens week 1 with the Panthers and the Browns?
Well, I honestly think that this is going to come down to a defensive matchup. I think first team to 20 wins. I just have a feeling it's going to be ugly at times. It's going to be slow, and it's going to come down to which defense can make the bigger plays. So I would I still give the edge to the Browns, but I think you're looking at maybe a 23-17 game, something in that realm. It's going to come down to some field goals. So thank God the Browns went and got themselves a kicker. But I think it's going to come down to a lot of defensive stops. But before I go, I want to say something. Congratulations to you and to the producers and to everybody watching. We did it. We made it through the longest offseason in the history of professional sports. There's an actual NFL game tonight. And in 72 hours, hopefully we're celebrating a W. We made it. So
I agree with you.
Give us our flowers.
I agree. We can finally start talking about football, some adjustments and those kind of things. And I also agree with you. If the Browns are going to win, it's going to have to be a low-scoring game. They're not going to win too many shootouts until Deshaun Watson comes back. Casey Kinnamon, as always, great stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks very much for the time and the insight.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
All right, Casey Kinnamon, make sure you read him, Dawg Pound Daily. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.